All right, we are live with another Let's Roll
Excuse me,
DM
there's a
talk.
message for you.
Phone's freaking out. All right, real quick, if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification button. And we are live on Twitch at twitch.tv/Let's Roll DND. And you can jump in and chat with us live. We're live we're live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you just want to chat with us, hop in. We're normally doing something D&D related. That being said,
We're making fools of ourselves.
or both. So we are going to continue our rummage through the player's handbook, and this is Combat Part 2, I believe.
Of 5.
Yeah, of like 18.
Ooh, wow.
Um,
Like the fucking old school Encyclopedia Britannica
yeah.
for those senior citizens of us in the room.
And I believe tonight we are gonna start off with, was it difficult terrain?
Believe that's where we're at.
Yep.
So I know last time we did splitting up our movement, and then we got off on a rant. Surprise, surprise.
We nothing. You got into a rant.
I very much want to already go into a rant about Encyclopedia Britannica. because somebody showed up at our parents' door and was like, "Hey, do you want to spend like $500 on a ton of books?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I could never imagine doing that.
Nope.
Anyways.
Well, what do? They tell you stuff. About what? About everything.
About everything.
Everything?
How many times are we going to use them in the next 20 years? Like 5.
Oh, man. The good old days.
Oh, man.
Where you can buy books and vacuum cleaners at your door. Yeah. So.
D&D books are legit like the only books I buy anymore. Everything else is audiobooks.
Yeah. I mean, I have a few other books, but they're 90% of the time just also related to D&D.
Well, yeah, I shouldn't say that that's it, but like the rest of them are like different art books from different games and stuff.
Yeah. Which is actually funny because just kind of on a different subject but similar. I was at work and one of the girls was like, "When are we gonna go out and when are we gonna go drinking again?" And I was like, "Well, I quit drinking." She was like, "No, you didn't." I was like, "Yeah, I spend that money on D&D stuff now." She was like, "What's that?" So we can go out, just I'm not gonna drink. Just trying.
You can have a good time without drinking.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just not as good. I was at work the other day and I was having a conversation with my coworker about how combat rarely takes place in bare rooms or featureless plains. Boulder-strewn caverns, briar-choked forests, treacherous staircases. Setting of a typical fight contains difficult terrain.
Good segue. Let's talk about that. So, difficult terrain.
Did you know that every foot of movement in difficult terrain costs 1 extra foot?
It is true. So anytime you're in difficult terrain, you are half movement.
This rule is true even if multiple things in a space count as difficult terrain.
Also true.
Things like low furniture, rubble, undergrowth, steep stairs, snow, and shallow bogs are examples of difficult terrain. the space of another creature, whether hostile or not, also counts as difficult terrain. So when that question comes up of can I move through a friendly character, the answer is yes, but it's difficult terrain.
That I didn't know.
That I didn't know either. I found that incredibly interesting because in every single one of my campaigns, the question comes up as to whether or not you can move through a friendly character. And I know that you can. I didn't know it was difficult terrain, though.
I do now.
Yeah.
So now it's definitely difficult terrain. We're learning together.
Yep. I've never counted. I mean, I guess it's steep stairs, so that's kind of subjective. But yeah, I don't use difficult terrain a lot in games unless it's
No.
like unless it's a feature, unless it's like I play. Sorry, did you want to do like a proper intro?
I think I did.
Okay, cool.
Didn't I?
I don't remember.
Close enough. It's fine.
Yeah, D&D things, YouTube, Twitch. Beep 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 beep. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, unless I'm doing a pre-made that calls it out, or unless somebody has a spell or a class feature or something that imposes difficult terrain. Obviously, mechanically, it would be unfair not to do it in that case.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at incorporating difficult terrain into like normal stuff. Even when my players are like, "Hey, is this stream going to be difficult terrain?" I'm just like, "Nah, it's like 2 inches deep, so it's not a big deal."
The funny thing
Because
is, like, I've written,
I'm that lazy.
yeah, I've written it in, and then forgot. So, like, for Josh's birthday, they went into like this swamp marsh thing, and I set it up so that it was difficult terrain, and then just never did it.
It's all right. Most of it I set on fire. So
Yeah. So it was, yeah. Now, if a spell calls for it, or something of that nature, yeah, I use it. But,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Sometimes I just forget.
I also electrocuted a bunch of people.
It's true. In game, not in.
Sure.
Yeah, it's kind of tough because you almost have to. You almost have to come up with ways to indicate that it's difficult terrain on the map, or be really consistent about it.
Yeah, for me, it's all or nothing.
Yeah, well, because otherwise it's kind of tough. Because like if you're in your head, like as the DM making decisions for the NPCs, that you're taking into account difficult terrain, but you're not necessarily like broadcasting it, and then the player goes to do something, and they feel like I don't know, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I'll use difficult terrain. I think it's a cool. I think it's a cool system to add in to just make it something that shouldn't be as hard, just a little bit harder. So like I'll use it for like flying creatures, right? If you're facing like I don't know, a bunch of pixies, it's cool just to throw in difficult terrain because now you got to chase them around. They're flying at like 40 feet, so you wouldn't catch them anyway, and they're just like running in.
Yeah, in my experience, anyways, movement. I'm gonna say something, and I'm probably just gonna sound like a noob, but in my experience, movement hasn't really been that big of a deal in most combats I've been in. D&D combats.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons for that. Like attacks of opportunity are a big one in my opinion, because once you're engaged with somebody, you don't really want to leave it because then you provoke attacks of opportunity.
I do all the time. Like in my other characters, like if I'm a frontline fighter, then it is what it is. I'm getting up there. I'm not moving. I'm literally there to kick your ass.
Right.
But
And that's what most of my characters tend to be, is
yeah.
some version of.
But like you can ask Josh Darius, he doesn't care. He'll take that attack, but he's getting away.
Right.
And
or when your party member like explodes and causes fire damage.
Yeah,
Whatever.
just get the fuck out of Dodge. Or me, I just get closer.
Yeah, that's exactly what you did.
I had a reason, but but that mechanic too, in use of like other mechanics, right? And one of my favorite mechanics, and you know this, is the mobile feat.
Yeah,
So I use a lot of movement when I have the mobile feat because I can just like.
man, there's so many regrets with that campaign.
I love that one.
What's that?
I miss that one.
I did too. Like I said, there's a lot of regrets with that campaign.
Mainly, I miss it for the simple fact that I am now held captured by a hag in the shape of in the form of a frog.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that.
Yeah, that's not causing me any anxiety at all.
Mm-mm. No. Nope. Not at all.
Yeah, I'm not happy about that. Curse of Strahd. If your character wasn't evil before, he will be by the end of it.
Yeah, that's what I like about that campaign.
Should have learned never mess with old women because they're all crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never punch an old lady selling pies in the face. That's the moral of the story, kids. I don't care what else you take away from this.
Yeah, and one of the things, one of the regrets that I have personally with, and it's not really a regret of mine. It's just I wish I could have seen it go differently. But one of my things with that campaign was that your monk was our tank.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't have been.
Yeah. Oh no, I thought it was fine though. I mean, because you had.
I mean, it was fine, but like.
Because I mean, you had the artificer's little tank.
Yeah.
And then you were doing like 16 attacks per round.
Yeah,
and then
definitely.
the bard pretty much he did his job. He controlled the terrain and helped out.
Yeah, I guess we didn't have a ton of squish, but we also we all kind of like middled in terms of survivability.
Mm-hmm.
I always imagine a monk though, especially the way you were building it, at least the way I understood you were building it, being a lot more mobile. And to me, for that to be a thing, you have to have somebody else, kind of holding the front line, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, but I mean, the way that I played the character is with the mobile feat. I would run in, bop bop, and then
Right.
get out of dodge, and if they moved, like I still had range. So like and I would push it towards your steel defender.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Steel defender was fucking.
Yeah, I mean that was our tank.
Oh man. Yeah, that's true.
Literally.
Yeah, literally a tank.
I also like that campaign started at 5, so my character was already super powerful. He walked in and he was like, I can multi-attack already. Fuck you guys. I got 3 magic items.
Yeah, I like that one. I like Strahd more, but
I like Strahd more. It's just, I don't know. It's challenge. It's weirdly challenging. Like I don't know how to.
It's
I don't
different.
know how to. It's different for sure.
Yeah. It's open and it has a lot of shit packed into it so that you can bump into things that you shouldn't.
I'll put it like this. If Strahd were a video game, I'd be re-rolling and starting over because I didn't understand how the game worked.
Well,
does that make sense? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. Well, on the bright side, chances are we could still be re-rolling to figure out how the
Oh
game
yeah,
works.
yeah, but I really don't want to.
We're not even like a minute in. It's
Yeah, I really don't want to because, and the biggest reason is just I don't feel like dealing with the whole like what I know as a player versus what I know as a character.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
yeah. No. I get it.
I don't.
It's like
Yeah,
extreme meta.
right.
Yeah,
Like next time we run into the pie sellers on our new characters, like I feel like you almost have to go completely the wrong way to kind of prove that you're not metagaming.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah,
And I don't want to have to do that.
yeah. No,
So
no.
I'd prefer that my character and I as a player have the same are working from the same knowledge base.
As being a player that had to be a player and DM at the same time, um, I'm completely okay with it because I will be ignorant of anything that's going on until I'm told. It's just like when we face a lot of monsters. Like when we face monsters, sometimes I'll be like, "So what is that? Oh, okay, okay. Do I know about the whole fire resistant thing? No. Okay, cool, 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 cool.
No, I get that. Like that's yeah, it's I understand it. I just don't feel like dealing with
Dealing
it.
with it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Jesse. What? It's a big iron door? Huh, I guess this'll work.
yep.
When we could have just pushed it open.
Yep. So you needed to do. But yeah, difficult terrain.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything else that says about
That's
difficult
it.
terrain? Like
No, that's
difficult
it.
terrain's pretty simple. You have your movement. I didn't know about the moving through allies space, which would make sense because there's certain feats, or not feats, but racial abilities that allow your character to go through, you know, allies space without,
Yeah,
without
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um, which now makes sense for some reason. Like it just clicked now. Like
There's
I think it's like the goblin and the
yeah,
halfling and
there's a couple things that are like that. Like you're reading different feats and you're like, oh shit, I didn't know that you couldn't already do that.
yeah. Um, yeah. So difficult terrain.
That's it for difficult terrain.
Moving on. Unless Josh, do you have anything to add to difficult terrain?
Nope.
Yeah,
Josh is
it's
like, are you fucking kidding me? What else is there to add after that 30-minute?
yeah.
No, I'm not nodding my head furiously.
yeah. Yeah. So that's a thing. So what's next?
Being prone.
Oh, okay. Josh, go ahead and read it, and then we'll discuss.
Alright. Combatants often find themselves laying on the ground either because they're knocked down or because they throw themselves down. When have you ever thrown yourself down?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
In the game, they are prone, a condition described in Appendix A. You can drop prone without using any of your speed. Standing up takes more effort. Doing so costs an amount of movement equal half of your speed. To move while prone, you must crawl or use magic such as teleportation. Every feet of movement while crawling costs 1 extra foot. Crawling 1 foot in difficult terrain therefore costs 3 feet of movement. That's it.
I think prone is probably one of the most underutilized and underpowered at the same time mechanics in the game, unless it's timed right. I don't think people utilize it as much as they should, and they should time it right. That's what I mean. Yes. So basically, by being prone, that means you're laying down, right? So while laying down or being knocked down, you have they have any enemy with a melee weapon in range has a advantage on their attack. So if it's well timed,
Actually, an attack roll against the creature has advantage if the attacker is within 5 feet of the creature. Doesn't specify melee.
well, the reason that it doesn't specify melee is because a range attack while a creature is prone is disadvantage.
It is. It is, but if you had, let's say, crossbow expert, that attack should be an advantage, even though it's not a melee attack.
Within 5 feet. See, this is where it gets tricky, right? Because here's a couple of instances where that being one. The other is if I am up on a rooftop shooting down on enemies,
Right.
I would not get disadvantage for you laying down because you're a bigger target now. So I'm thinking this as a marksman, right? So and Josh, to what I said while we were reading that, yes, I have, especially when using like a crossbow or something. I have dropped to my stomach and
Yeah, I haven't thought about that.
yeah. Um, but a lot of times what you see is, oh, well, I'm going to do an attack or something and I'm going to knock him prone. All right. Uh, nobody else is around him except for you. So you knock him prone and then his turn comes up and he just stands up. Like, granted, he lost 15 feet of movement, but chances are he's not going anywhere anyway.
It depends. It depends what type of action you're using to knock them prone. Raw, without any other features and stuff,
Yeah.
you would be able to knock somebody prone with an attack.
Yeah.
With one of your attacks.
Yeah.
So most classes that's not that useful because, like, oh great, I get to knock them prone. I have the chance to knock them prone with one attack, and then I get to take my second attack at advantage.
Yeah. Versus a fighter who, like, let's say Battle Master, I can knock him prone on my first attack, and then my 30 attacks after that, I have advantage.
The other possibility, and I may be misremembering this because I do that sometimes, but the other possibility would be using, if you were to take the Shield Master feat, because if I remember correctly, you can knock somebody prone with your bonus action. There.
Yeah.
Now that's up to the DM. I've seen different people rule it different ways. When, like, for that one, I believe that it stipulates that you have to use an attack action, and then you can use your shield bash essentially as a bonus action to either knock them back 5 feet or knock them prone, which Sentinel plus, like, Shield Master, knock them back, make them come at you again.
Mm-hmm.
Get that opportunity, or not Sentinel, Polar Master, sorry.
Yeah.
Just be like straight up Spartan, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, like, if you wanted to use it to knock them prone and then take all of your attacks at advantage, I've seen DMs that won't let you do that because you have to take the attack first.
Yeah.
But that's, I would agree.
Yeah.
In terms of you know, that kind of stuff, like what you're talking about, shooting down on somebody from a rooftop who's prone, shouldn't get disadvantage because you're not smaller. I would agree with you. I've never played with a group that's litigious enough to argue about at what point, like how far from being on top to being on the side you have to be where that kind of break point happens. I could see that coming up if that were something, like especially if you were playing with a sniper type class, like a
Mhm.
ranger or something, who was trying to get height a lot. At what point, do you? At what point does that advantage shift?
Oh,
But
when
yeah.
I play, like especially with minis on the table, when I
Mhm.
play, it's 90% of the time that's what I'm thinking about.
Right. What I mean to say is, if you're on level ground and the guy's prone, obviously that would be disadvantage, right?
Mhm. Yep.
If you're directly over top of him, that wouldn't be.
Nope.
Like we agree on the two
Yep.
extremes,
Mhm.
but at what point in that angular, presentation do you go from not having disadvantage to having disadvantage, or having advantage to not having?
Well, if they're how I do it, if they're prone, if the enemy's prone, you have to be almost completely over top of them to be able to nullify that disadvantage.
Okay.
Um,
See, personally, I'd have said
because
40.
yeah, I mean technically, right? Technically, at a 45-degree angle,
Right.
I should see enough of them. That being said, that being said, at a 45-degree angle, an arrow, this is just me,
Okay.
shooting at a 45-degree angle at a flat surface is going to just bing. So you would have to be higher than a 45 to get a good solid shot, which would be almost completely on top of them. That's just me, because I think about stupid shit like that.
So basically, mount them and shoot them in the face.
If you're mounting them, just stab them in the back of the head with an arrow. Just right in the back of the head.
It would be fun to go through a campaign where you had to rule on that regularly, um, and really have to hash all that out. Because on top of that, like, if you put cover into that, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because to me, like, if you have half cover and you go prone, that should be full cover.
It
That's
is.
okay.
Yep.
Um, but then there's, the what are the graduations there? Like when, you know, but that's
Normally at third level. Normally at third level they'll graduate Bard College. Boom boom.
I was wondering where you're going. But yeah, that's getting into the weeds at that point.
That's so dumb. Yeah. I mean,
Only third level. I'm like, did he not understand what the hell I was saying? Why is he
that's
talking
what
about
I
me?
was waiting. I was waiting for you to be like, "What? No, this is what." And yeah, it's just
Sometimes it's better just to nod and smile.
I was waiting for you to land the plane. I just wasn't sure where you were landing it at.
Neither did he. It's okay.
Yeah,
um. So yeah, prone. Um, I just don't think it's utilized as much as it could be. Um, but that's also like, well, I mean, depending on how you think, I guess. Like for me, I like, and this is why I prefer battle maps over theater of their mind. Um, because if it's theater of their mind, it needs to be described by the DM almost perfectly. Where just just like almost everything else. But with a battle map, you can think more.
Well, and to go into that kind of detail, you'd have to be playing on, in my opinion, you'd have to be playing on a 3D battle map, like
Yeah.
not a virtual one. Because like I mean, I've played XCOM, I played the shit out of XCOM, Final Fantasy Tactics, things like that. Elevation is hugely important. Having the upper ground is important, etc., etc. Like, but your interface has to give you all that information in order to make it viable.
Yeah. Yep. What do you think, Josh? Josh is
Yep.
really just here to poke fun when we get off on rants and do dumb shit. That's really he'll read a passage, sit back, and be like, "Why are you guys stupid?" That's
So basically, I'm the teacher.
I'm more like the babysitter. Not even the babysitter. You're the older kid in the corner that's just like, seriously, get that out of your nose.
I think of him more as like Teller.
I could see that.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
doing all the tricks like just very dryly, and just
Yeah.
yeah.
Keep it.
So the actual talented one.
I mean,
Oh, I'm telling Penn.
That's fine.
Me and him are Instagram buddies. I think.
I think.
I don't even think I
No,
have an
but
Instagram.
yeah. Well,
Oh, I do, but I don't use it. Somebody else does.
Yeah. Not even that, because no one sends pictures.
Yeah, I know.
On the IG, I never got into Instagram.
Mm-mm. Nope.
But no, there are specific Ranger arrows that, like, it's called out in like a lot of stuff where you just basically fire an arrow and knock someone prone by a giant sandbag.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and that would be really good for like a ranger that wanted to help control the battlefield. You know what I mean? Like Anthony's over there and he's head to head with somebody. I'm gonna give him like I know he's coming up. He's coming up after me, so I'm gonna hit his target with a beanbag and knock him prone, so that Anthony can get you know 4 attacks at advantage.
Do all the
Yeah.
advantages.
Mm-hmm. So I mean that's the thing. I like the fact that it's tactical. Um, I just don't see it used as much as it probably could be. And I'm completely guilty of it myself because I don't think about it in the heat of battle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd be curious. And this is one of the reasons I said it would be interesting to do a campaign where you were rolling on this on a consistent basis, because like really, if you're playing a ranged character and your positioning is, I don't want to say irrelevant, but not terribly relevant. Like, wouldn't you want to be wouldn't you want to like pop up, take your shots, and then go prone again?
Yeah.
And then like constantly just like fucking piss the DM off because you're always in full cover.
Yep.
Because you're behind some fucking crate or some dumb shit like that.
Well, I mean, yeah, just that the perfect example is, like on the Sunday game, I had my ranger, the bad guy ranger behind a column, and he would pop out, shoot, and go back behind. You, I have full coverage.
The fuck are you talking about?
Saturday, sorry, Josh's birthday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
Like I had
got you.
I had a dude that would
Like
just
Sunday game.
yeah,
like,
sorry.
what?
I'm getting all
I'm
my
like-
games mixed up.
I know fucking damn well Jesse didn't play a ranger in my Sunday game.
Mm-mm.
Did he? I'm going back to Waterdeep. I'm like, did he play an NPC evil ranger at some point?
Mm-mm. I'm
I
going to
couldn't
now.
think of any.
I'm going
I
to
couldn't
now.
think of any. I couldn't think of any, but that's the only thing I could think of that you were talking about.
Yep.
But yeah,
Horizon Walker Ranger. He's just gonna pop out, shoot you, hide, and then fucking teleport. Don't even know
seems
where he's
legit.
shooting from.
Seems legit. And hey, another fucking class that you could have done better as a fighter, because you just go Eldritch Knight and Misty Step all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
and have 5 attacks in a round. What?
Yep. Fucking fighters. Um.
Anyways,
Yeah. What were we talking about?
would you? It's not in the rules. I'm just
Yeah.
curious. But would you give somebody who's prone disadvantage on dex saves?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, their movement's halved.
I mean, it makes sense. It's just not anywhere that I can see, anyways, in the rules. So I wasn't sure. You
I
know.
mean, yeah, I would.
Okay.
I
Unless
would.
you're rolling.
Yeah, I mean, like I could see like rolling out of the way or something like that. It depends on. Hmm. I don't know. I always have. I that wasn't even like that was never a question for me, but now I'm questioning it.
I don't see it in the rules, anyways. I'll say that I don't see it in the prone text. Anything about dex saves. Uh, I mean, we didn't talk about it in being prone, so
The one thing that I don't like about the mechanic is the one thing that I don't like about the mechanic. If
what's the
you're
one thing that you don't like about the mechanic?
if you're forcefully put in a prone position, right?
Hmm.
So you're battling an NPC, you walk over, you take his legs out from under him.
Hmm.
The next 6 seconds that it's his turn, he could just pop right back up.
I personally, if I were Wizards and writing the rulebook, coming up from prone with somebody within 5 feet of you would be an attack of opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're hit, you'd be knocked prone again. Because think
I,
about
I
it.
mean, I
Like,
could, I could see that. I think, this is. I feel like this is one of those things where like this is something they would have done in 3.5,
mm-hmm.
but they just wanted to streamline everything in 5e.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I would agree with you. I would probably put it behind some kind of save,
yeah,
whether it be
yeah.
a dex or a strength
A
save or
strength or
something like
dex
that.
save, yeah.
Right. Um, but like, I also feel like at that point, like it's getting to be more complicated than they want it 5e to be.
Yeah, and I mean, I get that, but the reality is, like, if you're in a fight,
If I knock you over and you start to get back up, I'm gonna take a fucking swing on you.
right,
I mean,
like,
that's not even a question. I don't.
if
Nobody. That shouldn't be a question from anybody.
if I'm going for a kill shot and I knock somebody to the ground, I'm just hacking until they stop moving.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
like I said,
I'm not giving them
like I
six
said,
seconds to pop up.
if it were me and I were Wizards and I was writing the rules, that would provoke an attack of opportunity.
Yeah, at the very
Um,
least.
I feel like in previous editions it did.
I
I'm
believe
not
it did.
positive.
3.5 it did. I want to say that it did in 3.5.
Right. Um.
Um and 4 like probably more than likely it did, but you also had to roll like 20,000 different things that didn't make any sense whatsoever to get up. Uh so 4 never happened.
Yeah. I like. There's part of me that wants to like be like, hey, we should do a 4e handbook on unwrap. Like what we're doing here,
Why?
but
Because
for the
you hate me that much?
because I just want to like
Kind
go
of.
over it.
I mean, we could.
I mean, there would be no point to it. It would be completely useless.
We could do
Other
a,
than
a history of Dungeons and Dragons.
yeah.
Start with uh, Dungeons and Dragons First Edition, moving to
Well,
Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Um,
and I'm kind of curious. I'm somewhat familiar with 3.5. I'm familiar with 5e. I'm not familiar at all with what third edition is. I'll be honest with you. I've never seen anybody talk about third edition. Only
no,
3.5.
because it wasn't around very much. Like, and then they turned it into 3.5. So like
Right.
3 was okay, but they were like, okay, we got to fix some shit.
Right.
They upgraded Windows.
Would it be would it be how would it compare from how close did Xanathars come to making 5e 5.5e? Do you understand the question?
Yeah, I think from a DM standpoint, it really did. Um, it really upped the game for the simple fact that, like, okay, so you have your player's handbook, and your player's handbook is the basic rules.
Mhm.
You have the DMG, which the DMG, if you really look at the DMG, all it's really telling you is how to create worlds. It touches on encounters, and then it has some items and stuff in there, which we'll go over.
The
Um,
DMG has some really meaningful passages,
yes,
but
hidden,
like
but
unless
they're in there.
like you said, yeah, they're in there. There's some passages in the DMG that are very 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 meaningful. However, unless you're doing world building,
Yeah,
75% of it, like you're not gonna really touch.
no, nope. I mean, the
And
DMG
honestly,
is
and
still a good book to have.
it
Don't get me
absolutely
wrong,
is. I'm not.
but
I'm not trying to downplay the DMG.
if I
I
had
would
to
say,
buy two books, if I had to buy two books, it would be the Handbook and Xanathar's Guide. I would buy Xanathar's Guide over the DMG. That's just my opinion.
yeah, I think as a DM for sure, there was the Xanathar's Guide. There's like the section of Xanathar's Guide that's like, here's all the new subclasses,
Yep.
and that's not the section that I'm talking about.
No.
The rest of the book is what I expected the DMG to be.
Yeah. It's basically how to balance encounters.
A
Um,
lot of rules clarifications,
yep.
a lot of like there's a knot tying section
Yep.
in Xanathar's Guide that goes into like how specifically to use skills in different instances and things. And to me, like I'm not saying knot tying doesn't come up, but that's building a framework for the rest of the skills.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's setting precedent.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. I think Xanathar just kind of dived into the handbook and made it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Xanathar's Guide saved 5 point.
well,
It saved the Ranger
it definitely saved the Ranger.
and the Warlock.
I think that there's different, like, I think 5e is solid. If
Yeah.
you just played with the PHB, rules, you're playing a solid game.
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody plays a game where they don't do any homebrew. Like I've never played with anybody that didn't have some house rules.
Yeah. No.
You know, whether they knew it or not. Like, and I don't mean to bash anybody, but like sometimes people play with house rules and don't realize they're playing with house rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Show me advantage or show me flanking. It's an optional rule. That's a house rule. for 5.
Right.
And 90% of the people use it.
Right. Well,
So,
feats are an optional rule. Shit, who doesn't use feats? I've
Yep.
never been in a game where there's like where the DM was like, no, y'all are doing all ASIs, no feats.
yeah.
I've never even like other than like DM horror stories, like I've never even heard of it.
Yeah.
You know. Um. But yeah, do we want to go over free actions?
Yeah. Yeah, let's go over free actions.
That's what's next. It's not
Yeah.
called free actions, but
What's it called?
interacting with objects around you.
Okay.
Here are a few examples of sorts of things you can do. This is a side blurb. I mean, it's not like a paragraph.
Oh,
Here-
I was like, where the heck are you?
Do you have a physical copy of the book?
Of course, I have a physical copy of the book.
Oh.
What kind of noob who doesn't have a physical copy of the book?
I don't.
Oh. I kind of alluded to that, but
You don't have a physical copy? Oh, you do D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
ugh.
I have physical copies of all my campaign books. I have digital copies of all my player resource books. So like my player's handbook, my Skag, my Xanathar's Guide, those are all digital copies because I always want to have them.
It's okay. Not everyone's a true
Yeah.
enthusiast.
Not everybody's cool enough to
Sorry.
carry
No.
books around.
Yeah, something like that.
Books.
Anyway, go ahead.
Which is funny because 90% of the time I'll carry my book and I'll have it on my phone so I don't look at my book.
Yeah.
So,
Interacting with objects around you. Here are a few examples of sorts of things you can do in tandem with your movement and action. So these are things that you should be able to do without using any type of action economy.
Yeah.
Draw or sheath a sword. Open or close a door. Withdraw a potion from your backpack. Pick up a dropped axe. Take a bauble from a table. Remove a ring from your finger. Stuff some food into your mouth. Plant a banner in the ground. Fish a few coins from your belt pouch. Drink all the ale in a flagon. Flagon, my bad. Throw a lever or a switch. Pull a torch from a sconce. Take a book from a shelf you can reach. Extinguish a small flame. Don a mask. Pull the hood of your cloak up and over your head. Put your ear to a door. Kick a small stone. Turn a key in a lock. Tap the floor with a 10-foot pole. Last but not least, hand an item to another character.
I agree with most of that.
What do you disagree with?
Drinking a flagon. If drinking a flagon is a free action, then so would drinking a potion.
Yeah, there's some things in there that I thought drinking all the ale in a flagon was interesting.
Yeah, that was weird. Like maybe at the beginning of battle, like I'd let them do it, like
Yeah, like a bar fight's starting. I want to drink my beer and run over and smack this dude.
yeah. But like in the middle of combat,
yeah, that's a really weird
yeah.
Or I also thought that fish a few coins from your belt pouch was a weird one to have as a free action because
I would see that one make sense.
Yeah.
in the middle of combat though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I find tap the floor with the 10-foot pole a weird one. I mean, that's usually part of my movement.
Yeah. Well, what I mean with the coins, right, is casters. So like, I would allow somebody to reach into their bag, grab a coin, cast light, and toss it if they couldn't see. Now tossing, you know what I mean? And then, but
I get what you're saying, yeah.
but it's the same thing as material components. You know what I mean? Unless you're carrying a bunch of bat shit in your hand, like you have to pull it from somewhere to cast fireball.
I don't know anybody that actually uses.
Oh, I
material
do.
components, but
I do. Like when you see me play a spellcaster, if I need material components, like you'll hear me like pull, like I will literally say I'm pulling this and this out of my pouch.
yeah, I guess what I mean is, do you ever use material components instead of your focus?
No.
My recollection is the rule says you can either use your focus or your material components unless the material component has a cost.
Cost, yeah. Yeah. No, well that's only if you have a only if you have a focus. Certain spellcasters don't have a focus. Well, they're not
Ooh.
given one. Like a
Sure.
wizard, unless
Do
they're
druids have a bonus?
druids do, yeah.
Oh.
But even as I played my druid, there was certain component like I would still use my components.
Yeah, I
Only
would
be,
too.
only because thematically it's cooler. You know what I mean? But like as a paladin, no, I wouldn't. I would grab my holy symbol
Right, right.
because it makes more sense. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
even with that, like with my paladin, like when we took the rest in the church,
Hmm.
one of the things that I did over my rest and that I told Brandon I was doing was taking some of that parchment and ripping it up and writing and then folding it up and putting it in my pocket. Because one of my spell components has to be a piece of parchment with a holy scripture on it or something like that to cast
Oh, okay.
Shield of Faith.
Okay.
But I do only because thematics. Like if you don't, it's not like as a DM I wouldn't go, oh no you didn't, because you didn't pull that bat shit out of your pocket. You know what I mean? Um,
That
yeah,
just sounds fun. Did you pull the bat shit out?
yeah.
Did you
Where
actually?
where was your guano? I didn't hear guano. Sorry about your luck. It's not gonna happen.
Sorry, no dookie, no fireball.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, but yeah, I kind of get the free actions. I do like how it says one weapon because that annoys me sometimes, especially, and it's mostly with like new players. But like I make it a point when I DM because you'll hear people go like they have their sword and then they're like,
Hmm.
well, I'm gonna pull out my bow, or it's normally vice versa, right? They have their bow and then somebody
Hmm.
gets close and then they're like, well, now I have my sword. Well, no, it doesn't work like that. You have to drop your bow. If you want to do it in one turn, I'll allow you to drop your bow and pull your weapon, but realize you dropped your bow
Right.
because you're gonna
Well,
have to pick that up later because I'm not gonna
yeah.
tell you to pick it up.
Well, that's like for my game, Shredder. Like the way I play it is because he doesn't technically pull out his weapon.
Yeah,
He kind of changes his axe and shield into his other weapon.
yeah,
So I'm like, all right, that's a bonus action.
yeah,
Like, which that's super cool. I love when he does that. That's
yeah,
super cool.
yeah. But I mean, changing weapons is a bonus action. Pulling a weapon is a free action.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think that's about it. It did have some weird examples of free actions. Yeah. All right, what's next?
What's a bauble?
A bobble?
Yeah. Um,
Well, that depends. What context?
I don't know. It
It's,
says
it's
take a bauble from a table.
it's
Like a
usually like a small trinket.
like a trinket. A trinket is a bobble.
Yeah.
That's where bobbleheads come from. 'Cause they're small little trinkets that do this.
I just wanted to make him do it.
Wow, that was skill right there to get him to bobble his head.
Well,
Of course.
he knows if somebody says bobble, it's almost inevitable. But all right, let's take a short break. What do we have next?
Moving around other creatures.
Yeah, let's take a short break real quick,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna come back to that because I gotta refuel.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll be back in just a minute. Please stand by. All right. So we are back, and we are about to talk about moving around other creatures. Who wants to read this one?
I can take it.
Okay.
You can move through a non-hostile creature space. In contrast, you can move through a hostile creature space only if the creature is at least 2 sizes larger or smaller than you. Remember that another creature space is difficult terrain for you, regardless of whether they're hostile or non-hostile. Whether a creature is a friend or an enemy, you can't willingly end your move in its space. If you leave a hostile creature's reach during your move, you provoke an opportunity attack, as explained later in the chapter.
Yeah, I think that one's kind of cut and dry. I mean, even moving through a creature's space, like if you're in combat, um 90% of the time you can move around a creature unless it's real tight quarters. Um but most of the time you can dance around them a little bit.
You can, but it depends how big they are
Right.
and how, like, because the thing is, like, depending on like how you're doing everything, right? Like, if it's a, let's say, like a large creature, like how large would a creature be on a grid map? Would it be 2x2 or 1x2?
I think it's 2 by 2, a
Two
large.
by two. So, um, and there's a lot of, well, if this, then it would be different. But like, let's say you're at one side of a creature, you need to get to the other side of the creature. One of your allies is in front of the creature. You know, it's probably more efficient to just move through the creature, because if it's big enough that you can do that.
Yeah.
Because moving around is going to cost more points, and also if you move around it but through one of your allies, that's still going to be difficult terrain.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It, I mean, again, as as all things D&D, it's very situational.
Yeah,
You know, there's
absolutely.
times that you're going to want to use it, times you're not. Um, because you also have to remember, like, I was watching something the other day. I think it was on Facebook or something, and it was a guy holding, like a claymore, and he was like, "If
The
we're in
sword or the mine?
the sword,
Okay.
he's holding a claymore, and he has like a fighting dummy like right in front of him,
Hmm.
and he's like, if I have this big sword, how am I missing? Well, because you're not, your mini is right in front of them, but realize that's a 5 foot square. So you're not directly in front of them. You can literally be 5 feet away from them.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people haven't ever been in a fight.
Yeah,
Like, I don't mean to say that like any certain way. I just, like, the problem is with something like that, like, if you want to swing something that fucking big, like, you're projecting your fucking movements.
yeah,
Like, you can do it less if you're more proficient in it, but there's no way you're moving that big heavy fucking sword and not letting somebody know what you're doing.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, so if you're at a 5 foot square, right? If we each have a 5 foot square, you
Mhm.
can stand at one end of your 5 foot square, and I could stand at the opposite end in my 5 foot square, and
And we
then
would be socially distanced.
yes, and that is how you D&D during COVID. Wear your mask, and you can only battle at opposite ends of the square.
Well, yeah, because
We're not
even
6 feet.
even even large fellows like us, I mean, if you actually took, like, if you stood up straight, and like took your dimensions looking directly down on you, you'd be 2 feet by 2 feet,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And you and I mean, I kind of assume Josh is as well because he's your brother, but maybe he's not.
He's not.
Oh, well, okay.
And not what?
Like, but like you and I are hefty fellows.
Yeah. No, Josh
So,
is not hefty. He's a little guy. I mean, he's
okay,
tall,
well,
but no.
gotcha.
And a little lanky.
Yeah.
Um, but even at that point, we're taking up a 2x2, and the game mechanics giving us a 5x5. So,
Yep.
area increases exponentially.
Yeah.
2x2 is like a quarter of 5x5.
Yep. Yeah, and I don't think people understand that. Like, because they see the mini, right?
Right.
So they see the mini and it takes up a 5 foot square, but it won't. Just like a large creature. A large creature it takes up a 10 by 10 square. It's not 10. It's not from shoulder to shoulder 10 feet across.
Correct. Right. And
Yeah.
if you take the example you were saying, um, if you have two creatures in adjacent squares, they're taking up collectively together. They're taking up a 5x10 square.
Yeah.
That's not a small area.
Right. And if we go with the 2 by 2 that you said, so 2 foot by 2 foot at max. If you're taking up a 2 by 2 square, you're talking you got a total of you know 4 feet out of 10 that you're taking
At a
up.
at a 25.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So it's not
yeah,
even a quarter. It's like a fifth.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I mean, being able to move around creatures and through spaces, not creatures, but through spaces, it should be easy. It should be easily done. You know, if I need to get on the other side of that zombie, I'm going to get on the other side of that zombie. Now, it might be a little different if, I'm trying to get on the other side of an owlbear.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's I find that with combat, there's a lot of things that people try to oversimplify, and it's just not how it works. Because like the example that you were just talking about with the claymore, oh, if I swing this big ass sword, how am I missing? Okay, well, first off, if I'm wearing plate armor, my AC is high. It's not missing.
See, that's the other thing that people don't understand. And I think that's because of how the game is played, right? On a
Hmm.
hit, on a hit, you're not drawing blood every time.
Well, but even when you hit, you don't hit
Right. And that's what I
necessarily.
mean. That's what I mean. So like
Right.
if you look at 4E,
Hmm.
you had different uh, conditions, right? Where if you struck them so much that it went through the armor, then you had the bleeding condition, or so on and so forth. And that's what they don't understand. When you're hitting somebody with heavy armor,
Hmm.
you're hitting even on a natural 20. On a natural 20, like you might have got in between the plates.
Right.
But on a regular hit, it does not always mean that you're drawing blood. It means you're damaging their armor. You know what I mean? Like you're making it count. But that's what that is. That's why I think health points, like HP, is
It,
the wrong thing to say, because you're not
right.
really.
I mean, I agree with you. I think that you and I are going to agree on the big picture, but disagree on the little picture. Because I think also, like, when you use heavy armor as an example, if I'm wearing heavy armor, like, there's times where I'm going to let somebody hit me,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to deflect.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you can hit my fucking gauntlet. That's fine.
Yep.
But I'm gonna make it that like you hit me. Oh yeah, you hit a fucking piece of metal.
Yep.
Like, like that's
Yeah,
that's
because
kind of the other thing.
your health points are more like exhaustion almost.
Right.
Like
Yeah, I forget where exactly in the I don't even know if it's in the book, but I feel like it says somewhere in the book. Maybe it was in Xanathar's. I don't know. Um, it's more meant to represent like your morale, like your not
yeah,
necessarily like your ability to fight per se, but your willingness to fight.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, once you hit zero, that's where they got you. You know what I mean? Like they finally got you. They got through the
Right.
armor. They did some damage. Because let's be honest, I get that it's a fantasy world, but like somebody stabs you with a dagger, like really stabs you with a dagger,
Hmm.
you're pretty much done fighting. In the right
Yeah.
location, you're done. There
Even
is
if
no fight left.
even and this is one of those things where it's reality versus fantasy. I remember when I was a kid, and there's been other games like Civ does something similar. I remember when I was a kid, they had a game. It was called Mage Knights, and the way that worked was your mini had a dial on the bottom, and as it lost HP, it you spun the dial. Like if you lost 3 hit points, you'd spin 3 clicks. Your stats would go down
Yeah.
because the closer to death you got, the weaker you were.
Yep.
You know, and like I said, I think Civ does something similar with um, combat units being more effective when they're full health.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but that's not how D&D plays. Like nobody wants to sit here and be like, "Oh, I have 1 HP, which means I have 3 strength instead of my normal 15."
Yeah. Well, I
You know,
mean, again, going back to that fourth edition, the mechanics were almost so good that it's the game suffered.
well, the mechanics can be good, but it's one thing to be good and it's another thing to be practical.
Right.
Like if like those are video game mechanics as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Those are mechanics that are good if you have an AI behind the scenes taking care of all the minutia.
Yeah.
You know, so something behind the scenes that's taking care of all that kind of stuff. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, to have a human being taking care of it in real time is just
Painful.
well, it's not even just painful. It's 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 just a bad expectation as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned. I mean, like how often do we just and but just as an example, how often do we forget to do concentration saves?
Yep.
And that's like a very simple mechanic. Oh, if you get hit and you have excuse me, if you get hit and you have a concentration spell up, you have to make a con save.
Yep.
And we forget stuff like that.
Yep.
Now you're talking about like uh dynamic dynamic character strength. You know
Yeah, you would almost
that's
need like multiple character sheets.
you
So
would,
like
and
when you
that's
get down to this, then use this sheet. When you get down to this, use this sheet.
right, and that's the game I was talking about. That's how Mage Knights worked. You
Yep.
you you spun your dial, and that was your stats. Like whatever health you were at, that was your stats.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, health hit points. It's a complicated thing
Yeah.
because like uh nobody I don't think quite agrees on what it's meant to represent.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I get that. You know, it just sounds better when you're like, oh, he stabbed you. You know what I mean? Like, it just thematically, it might not make sense, but like, you get a better visual than, oh, he did 2 damage. He slammed into your breastplate.
Right.
It's just not as cool. You know what I mean?
hmm it's a complicated. It's one of those things where you just have to accept that it's a game and this is how the game mechanics work,
Yep.
and don't try to think too hard about it.
Yeah, don't overthink it.
Right. Because if you overthink it, you're just gonna
Ruin the
like.
game.
Well, you're not. It's not even just ruin the game. You're just gonna, eh, start losing your hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the end of the day, this is how it works. I have my attack bonus. You have your armor bonus. I have to roll a certain number to be able to hit you.
Yep. Done.
To be able to do damage. Don't uh, don't try to justify everything.
Yep. What were we talking about?
We were talking about moving it around other creatures
Yeah.
and having more space than what the board represents.
Yeah. I think we covered that pretty well. Josh, anything to add?
Nope.
Okay. Josh, what's next?
Flying movement.
What's after that?
Creature size.
Okay. Just read the flying movement.
Flying creatures enjoy many benefits of mobility, but they must also deal with the dangers of falling. If a flying creature is knocked prone, has its speed reduced to zero, or is otherwise deprived of the ability to move, the creature falls, unless it has the ability to hover or it is being held aloft by magic, such as by the fly spell.
Yeah, you can get over difficult terrain without an issue. You can fly over people's heads, but if you stop flying, it's 1d6 for every 10 feet. So there's your trade-off. Also, if you're flying and you drop to zero, if you drop to zero and you hit the ground, that's 2 automatic death saves. 2 fails. Because anytime you take damage after you're knocked unconscious, it's 2 failed death saves. So just think about that.
Well, I would say, even depending on how far you fall. I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, if you're at 60 feet, if you're at 60 feet and you plummet, that's gonna hurt a lot.
yeah. I mean, I would almost. What's the rule? If you take too much damage, you just outright die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you take that amount of damage from the fall, you just die.
Yep. And in
That's how
that,
I would roll it.
like
Anyway.
at that high of a height, I mean, at that high of a height, what I would say, honestly, is, um, when they hit, roll for the damage, so you get that what 666,
hmm
but that's added to the damage that you just took. So if those two added together are over your max HP, you're done.
Yeah.
That's how I would rule that. Because falling from 60 feet is not like, I don't care if you're superhuman. That shit's gonna hurt real bad.
Well, and you're dead stick.
Yeah, yeah. You're
Like
not making any
this,
saves.
right? Like you're just yeah.
I mean, I would even go as far as saying you take full damage.
I wouldn't go that far. My reasoning would be that a lot of it is going to depend on how you land. Even if you're dead stick, if you land on your head, that's your full damage.
Yeah.
And the dice can say that. Dice can say that.
Yeah.
You know, if you get lucky, then the dice will say that. But
I'm just trying to think. So what we're saying is, I mean, I guess technically you could survive jumping off of a third story building.
mhm.
But you would have to land on your feet. Because, like, you land on your stomach, you're done. You land on your face, you're done. You land on your back, there's a slim to nil chance. But if you land on your stomach, you're dead. Your ribs are going to go right through your heart, right through your lungs. You're going to bleed out. You're going to fucking break your face open.
Yeah, I agree that there should be there, like depending on the height of the fall and whatnot.
Yeah.
There should be a better than 50% chance that you're just outright done.
Yeah.
I do think that you can get lucky. However, I mean, you read stories about, oh, somebody's parachute
Yeah.
didn't deploy and they lived, and you're
Yeah.
like, that's not how that's supposed to work.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be able to fall from a couple thousand feet and not die.
Yeah.
Now they're all jacked up. It's not like they're walking away from it or anything like that, but you're not supposed to live.
Mm-mm.
So I do think that the dice have to play, to me anyways, the dice have to play a role in that, because that's
Yeah.
kind of representing how lucky you get, so to speak. But for sure it should be.
I mean, that being said, too, you're a level 13. Your hit points are like 100 and something. A 60-foot fall is. That hurt. You know what I mean? But on top of that, you already took 2 death saves because that doesn't matter.
Right, you're automatically going to be taking. Yeah.
So now you got 3 chances. You only have 3. You have 3 rolls.
Yeah, at that point, your chances are not great.
Yeah.
Because you have to roll 3 consecutive successes. Because if you roll 1 failure at that point,
You're done.
Die.
Yep.
Or just be boss like me and just roll at 20.
I negate the 20. What else we got? What's next? I think that pretty much covers that. I mean, flying is flying. You know what your flying speed is. We already talked about movement, so we don't have to go back over that again. Right, dividing your speed by your distance, and I don't want to talk about that again.
Nope, no more algebra.
That hurts my brains. So Anthony, what's next?
Oh, we got creature size. Each creature takes up a different amount of space. Size categories table shows how much space a creature of a particular size controls in combat. Objects sometimes use the same size categories.
Yep.
Size categories are tiny, 2.5 by 2.5 feet, small, 5 by 5, medium, 5 by 5, large, 10 by 10, huge, 15 by 15, gargantuan, 20 by 20 or larger.
Yep.
Space?
The final frontier.
Yeah, I mean,
these are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise.
Is there anything else that we need to talk about there?
Continuing mission to seek out strange new worlds.
No, I think we're good.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they told us they had a continuing mission, but then they stopped making.
Then they stopped continuing.
Yeah, I mean, what the hell?
Slackers.
Right?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much cut and dry. You know. All NPCs, or I'm sorry, all PCs will be medium.
There's a couple that are small.
Yeah, I'm saying like they're not going to be large or gargantuan.
Right.
that changes the whole game mechanic. I mean, they could be large for a quote unquote medium creature, but
Right, and a lot of the times like Goliaths have that.
hmm
Um, they use the large carry weight rules,
yep,
but they're still a medium creature.
yep. Carry weight.
Carry
uh,
weight's fucking ridiculous.
like anybody uses cumbrance.
Ugh.
I ain't paying attention to that.
It's so fucking. It's if you're using variant encumbrance, which like everybody's like, yeah, we're using variant encumbrance, and then like somebody becomes encumbered, and it's like, oh, we're not using it anymore. Because if you use variant encumbrance, it is so difficult to stay under that first threshold, especially if you're like a heavy armor user.
Yeah.
Because like you can blink and be at 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
I do think this is cool though. Like what I've noticed about art groups, like I thought it would be more loot heavy than it is. And what I mean by that is I expect, because of them being all, like most of our players have been new players, right?
mhm.
What's the first thing you do when you kill something?
Loot the
I'm gonna
body.
loot it. Um, and when you kill something, I'm gonna tell you what you get, right? So if the dude has a sword, it might not be the best sword in the world, but he still has a sword. If he was using a sword and a shield, he still has a sword and a shield. So it doesn't matter what investigation check you do, you can at least get a sword and a shield out of it.
Right.
And I'm really surprised that people weren't like, well, okay, so we just killed like 60 dudes. I'm gonna take all their swords and arrows and belt buckles and pants, and then I'm gonna try to sell them. I'm really surprised that we haven't had that.
I mean, I I feel like I see. To me, it's you know, this is something that they've been dealing with in video games for some time. Like Skyrim was fucking.
Oh yeah, I take everything: candlesticks, turkey
How
legs,
how
Sweet rolls.
how
everything.
how do you have the space to carry it? If it's not worth to for me when I first start the game, if it's not worth 10 times its weight, it doesn't fucking move.
Nope, I take everything, and this is what
And
I do.
that's
This is what I do. This is what I do. So like, let's say I go into a place, right,
hmm
and I see a chest. I'll go into the chest. I'll empty it out. Now I can fast travel back to where I was. So I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna fast travel back to town. I'm gonna sell everything that I can. Then I'm gonna fast travel back. Then I'm gonna put whatever I want to keep to fight. But when I go out, what I'm fighting in is all that I'm carrying.
right.
Right. So now I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna loot a bunch of shit. Now instead of going back to town, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all that loot when I get close to being encumbered. I'm gonna go back to that chest that I just emptied out, and I'm gonna fill it up. Then I'm gonna go back out and I'm gonna fight, and if I get close, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna fill it up. And then I just take another, like after I clear the space, I take another 20 minutes jumping back and forth and just
That
selling everything.
that makes sense. Unless there is an out of game reason that I need to use it,
Yeah.
I don't use fast travel in Skyrim because I think it breaks immersion.
Oh no, I do all the time.
Yeah, I don't because like I'll use the wagons because
Yeah.
that's like a mechanic,
Yeah.
but like I won't use fast travel
Well, that's the only
um,
time that I use fast travel.
unless High Hrothgar, because I'm only making that fucking walk once. Okay, but
Listen,
like
immersion.
there's a there's a
Take
couple
that
exceptions.
walk.
There's a couple exceptions, but generally speaking,
Take the walk.
You climb that mountain.
I will once.
Nope, I use it all the time. But I
Yeah,
never use it. I never use it while adventuring.
I only do it for stupid reasons.
yeah.
Like,
But like I
so
said,
what I'll do is like I'll jump back and forth like 6 times to sell everything, but I'll jump back and then carry on. It's
Right.
never like, okay, I need to go home.
Right. I have found that in D&D, like a lot of stuff's not really worth that much.
Nope.
Especially when you're trying to sell fucking used equipment back to somebody.
Yep. It isn't
It's
worth the time.
not. Right. Like if it's equipment that I think I can use, I'll pick it up. Absolutely.
If I think it's
And
something cool,
or if I think it's something cool, yeah, that's a different story. But like in terms of like, stuff to sell, like I'll take jewelry,
mm-hmm.
spell books,
Yep.
um,
Other than that, it's the
valuable.
shit that you're gonna use. Scrolls, potions, you're gonna use them. Even if you don't need them right now, like why wouldn't you take a potion? Why would
Right.
you even if you're in the desert, even if you're in the goddamn desert, why would you not take a potion of water breathing?
Well, if nothing else, they're fucking expensive.
Yeah. And it's going to be
Like,
that one time that there's going to be one time that you're on a ship and you're like, oh, fuck, I just fell into the water. What am I getting? You know what? 12 sessions ago when we were in the desert, I'm
right.
good.
I mean, right, and that's space.
Space. What's next? Josh, what's next? Did we lose him? I think we lost
What?
him for good.
No.
Oh.
Not yet.
Space is next.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm like, he said what was next.
I thought we just went through space.
No, he said space, and then you rambled on for 20 minutes.
Right.
We went over creature size and size categories.
Right. Space.
We are now in space.
Space. Space.
Though, honestly, you two have talked about space, so...
Yeah, we're pretty much going to read it and then just go by it. So, yeah, unless there's something that I find interesting, but I doubt it.
Basically, a typical medium creature isn't 5 feet wide. If a medium hobgoblin stands in a 5-foot wide doorway, other creatures can't get through unless the hobgoblin lets them. A creature's space also reflects the area they need to fight effectively. For that reason, there is a limit to the number of creatures that can surround another creature in combat. Assuming medium combatants, 8 creatures can fit in a 5-foot radius around each other. Because larger creatures take up more space, fewer of them can surround a creature. If 4 large creatures crowd around a medium or smaller one, there's little room for anyone else.
Yeah, we already did that.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
Squeezing into a smaller space.
We all already know about that. Let's move on.
Yeah, I got 2 babies. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Just go ahead.
On to the next.
No, go ahead and read it.
No.
I don't know.
Okay. A creature can squeeze through a space that is large enough for a creature one size smaller than it. Thus, a large creature can squeeze through a passage that's only 5 feet wide. While squeezing through a space, the creature must spend 1 extra foot or every foot it moves there, and it has disadvantage on attack rolls and dexterity saving throws. Attack rolls against the creature have advantage while it's in the smaller space.
I didn't know
That is,
about the attack.
that is very interesting. That would be if a large creature was squeezing through a 5-foot hallway.
Yeah.
They would, Jesus Christ, they get wrecked.
Yeah.
Fucking kidding me? Disadvantage on attack rolls
Mm-hmm.
and dexterity saves.
Yep.
Attack rolls against the creature have advantage.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ!
Moral of the story: don't squeeze your ass through that hole.
Don't try fucking fighting there.
Yeah, I mean that. I think that goes without saying. I didn't know about the attack rolls. I did know about everything else, but I didn't know about the attack rolls.
You know what they say? Don't fight if it's tight.
Or I always just heard running start if it's tight. Might be two different things. Might be thinking about okay. Well, yeah, and I think we already talked about like size and everything. I mean, those are the basic rules, and those rules make sense. You're in a tight spot. You can't move. You can't move as well as you want. So it makes sense.
Makes sense. I just never. I mean, that's such a fucking big deal.
Yeah. What's next? Josh.
Sorry, I was trying to find my button. I kept missing it.
Your what?
My push button.
Oh, got it.
Actions in combat. When you take your action on your turn, you can take one of the actions presented here, an action you gained from your class, or a special feature, or an action that you improvise. Many monsters have an action option or have action options of their own. When you describe an action not detailed otherwise in the rules, the DM tells you whether that action is possible and what kind of roll you need to make, if any, to determine success or failure.
Was that it?
Yeah. And then it breaks it down. The first one's attack.
Okay. So I mean that's the general. So let's. It's almost 10:15. I want to go. I want to log off at like 10:30. So let's finish. I think we'll finish this one up. Right? Because there's attack. I'm assuming it's action and bonus action.
No,
Uh,
it's attack, cast a spell, dash, disengage, dodge, help, hide, ready, search, use an object. It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's a pretty meaty one.
So we're gonna stop at 10:15.
Yeah. Let's hold off on that until the next one, because I think that's a conversation in itself. I think.
Yeah, no, it's not a section I personally want to rush because there's a lot of
There's a lot of meat.
There is.
Yeah.
We're finally getting into the important stuff.
Well, yeah. 2 sessions into combat, we're actually,
Yeah, I mean this is the big one, right? We're gonna get the next one. The next big one's probably gonna be spell casting. What's the chapter after combat?
Spellcasting.
Yeah.
I feel like there's some sections in spellcasting that are going to be cumbersome.
Yeah.
But I don't know that
the whole thing's not going to be.
Yeah,
but
like
there's
I feel
definitely
like some of it's going to go pretty quick. Like casting a spell is going to take a long time. The rest of it's going to be relatively painless.
Yeah. Well, until you get like area of effects, because there's like 8,000 of them.
Right.
Yeah.
But the thing with combat is we have actions in combat, and then we have making an attack. Making an attack shouldn't take that long.
No.
Cover shouldn't take very long. But then we have damage and healing, which is going to take a while.
And then, like, probably on almost every one of these, we're going to get into a 15-minute rant.
I mean, that's just the nature of it, though. I mean, combat's the most complicated thing. Like, mechanically, combat's the most complicated thing in D&D.
Yep.
There's so many, there's things that I want to ask you about. What would you do if, you ran into this situation? Because to me, this is like what we as players run into.
Yeah.
Like, and not necessarily like, listen, whatever DM you're playing with, it's their option of what they want to do, and I'm not saying that it's not, but like, it's nice to have a conversation. It's nice to have a conversation, like you and I and Josh can have a conversation about what we would do in different situations without any of us having horses in the race.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that too, like, it was just like Sunday. I forget what the ruling was. It was, it was on, it was either Bless or, what's the one? Bane. I looked at Brandon and I said, look, you can make the ruling because I'm going to do the same thing at my table that you're going to do right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that way we can keep it level on every game that we play. Because, some of the shit, a lot of this shit is open to interpretation.
Well, and it's tough. It's tough to have that conversation when whether you're a player, whether you're a DM, but you want it to go a certain way.
Yep.
Like, it's fine to set precedent, but the first time you have that conversation, like, different parties want to have that go different ways at the time.
Yep.
And it's really hard to, like, you might be having the conversation in good faith, but it might be hard for me to trust you.
Right, because if I, in that instant, right? If you ask the question to the DM, the DM could say, no, that's not how that works. But
right.
He could be saying that because he really just doesn't want it to work. On the other hand, if you look at another player and say, hey, how does this work? Well, you're my ally.
I don't want you to get crit.
So I want, yeah, right. So I don't want to, like, yeah, that's how that works in my favor.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I'm not saying like anybody, but like when we have these conversations in a vacuum, like we are right now,
Yep.
we get to take all that away.
Yep.
But remember, when in doubt, rule of cool.
Blow it up. Or set it on fire.
I've seen people use rule of cool very much, in my opinion, the wrong way sometimes.
Oh, yeah. I use it if it's, like, there's no way you're going to do something, I don't care how cool it is. Like, if you're breaking mechanics by doing it, you're not doing it. If it's, but if it's, you're facing an ancient black dragon and you want to draw cards from your deck of many things, and then you pull a fucking wish spell and ruin the rest of my combat, that happens.
And that's why we don't use deck of many things.
But then the card right before it was an Avatar of Death, so...
Yeah, that was fun. I wouldn't have put the deck of many things in there if it wasn't Josh's birthday and like a couple days before he was like, it'd be cool, a deck of many things. I was like, oh, well, now it's there.
I mean, I already had a wand of wonders and a bag of tricks. We might as well throw in all the... Yeah. And I was a wild mage, so...
Yep, just throwing it out.
Yeah, I remember I played one campaign where the DM pulled a deck of many things, and it was really awkward because he did it like in session 0.
What?
Yeah, like he did it in session 0, like I mean, we ended up all starting with like 500 extra gold because that's what we drew. But
I
it was just really weird because maybe it wasn't deck of many things. It was something similar. He had his draw cards from a deck, and there was bad stuff and good stuff.
Yeah, that's deck of many things.
Yeah,
One can
like
give you like extra, but see, here's the thing about that. Like you get one. There's one card. Josh drew both of them. There's like one that gives you 1,000 XP,
10,000,
and then
and
what?
then 50,000.
Yeah. So like if he gives you a deck of many things at level 1, and then you pull that card, guess what? Welcome to being a god.
yeah, I agree. Like it was like I said, it was awkward because it was in session 0, and it was just
Yeah.
like I do take it back. He did give us the choice of whether or not we wanted to draw a card in session 0, and we did, and we drew like a 500 gold card where each player got monies.
Maybe that was something different.
It might have been.
It might have been
It's
something that he kind of.
it might have been like a deck of many things junior or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know. But I just remember it being really awkward because it was like, especially the way it turned out, because now it's like, and that was, I want to say that was, man, I want to say that was my second campaign that I ever played in. So it was really weird because I went from playing in Waterdeep where we were constantly
Just piss
completely
poor.
fucking dirt ass broke all the time, and then somebody was like, "Here, you're gonna start," and we were doing we didn't get to play very often because it fell apart, but we were doing Acquisitions Inc. Um, so like we
That
started
might
with it.
that might actually be in Acquisition
It might
Sync.
be. It might be. I
I
don't know.
have
I
the
don't
book. I
have.
haven't read it yet.
I don't.
Oh yeah, I
It.
bought it for.
Hmm.
Yeah. It sounded really interesting. Um. It just kind of fell apart because it was one of those. It was one of those groups that we were supposed to like. We did it over Discord. Nobody knew each other, and then just like nobody showed up.
Yeah,
So. It fell apart.
yeah.
It's okay. Technically, I died twice.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, one I
Well,
got avoid, and then the other one I had to reverse fate.
yeah. Um. Yeah, and that's. I mean, we're gonna have a chat about this eventually, but like playing online, especially like it's different when you're playing like we play online. Like we play online, we know everybody. You know what I mean? Like it's just especially when the COVID hit, like we were playing with the same groups that we normally played with, so we're used to playing together. We're used to being, you know, together and playing and we're pretty good with each other. Where like if you play online with a bunch of people you don't know, you're less likely.
Well, I feel like playing online with a bunch of people you don't know is a necessary evil.
Yeah, I mean,
Like I think the preference would be that you were playing in, like, to me anyways, the preference would be that you're playing in person with people you know.
yeah.
However,
Yeah.
like that's tough to fucking do.
Well, I'm telling you right now, I've never played online where I didn't know everybody.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, uh, I didn't try it yet. I don't know that I'm gonna like it. And even when I do, uh, the voice that I'm gonna use over Discord is gonna be what Darius used going into the bookstore.
yeah, I mean, I guess I have played blind games where I didn't know anybody. Most of my online games that I play, my primary online game that I play in though, like it's a couple people that I've known for a while, a couple people that we've kind of picked up to make a WoW kind of comparison. It's like you and two of your friends are like, hey, I want to go run a dungeon, but it takes 5 people. So you've got you and your two buddies, but then you got to pug two more people.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. And then like you end up rolling with those pugs for a couple hours, and then you're friends now. That kind of thing.
Yeah. I just haven't done it yet.
It's definitely a challenge. And online games definitely are different than in-person games. I find that the RP is a lot less.
So my question, I have a question,
Okay.
and this may be a legal thing. So like, let's say, not that I think I would ever do this,
Oh
but let's
Jesus.
say I joined a Discord D&D session um on Roll20
Hmm.
as a player, and I recorded it, but I was literally just trolling other players. Could I get in trouble for that?
I mean, I think it would depend a lot on the context. I think that if I think the reality is that if you ever got like popular and it actually got a lot of views, you probably run into issues.
Hmm.
But if nobody watches it, then nobody cares. Like, because I've seen stuff like that before from other games. Typically, whoever it is that's being trolled, like the identity's hidden,
Yeah.
like username stuff like that. But I mean, I don't see why. I don't know, dude. That like you're getting into legal stuff too,
Yeah.
because certain states, like if I remember correctly, it's kind of like phone tapping. You know, different states have different laws in terms of like who has like can one party record a phone conversation? Do both parties have to know that it's being recorded? Um, if you're calling from one state to another, whose rules do you follow?
Hmm.
Like, I mean, but like I said, like for any of it to be relevant, it would have to like actually be.
Only one way to find out. Wink.
That being said, you might, catch some flack from Roll20 themselves because beyond the legalities of it, like
Eh.
there may be something in their EULA about it. Uh,
Eh.
Depending on what the VoIP client you're using, like Discord. I don't know if there's anything in the EULA about that because I know like if you record Discord, like it tells everybody you're recording, and like
Yeah.
pretty much every other voice app that I've used does the same thing. Like TeamSpeak, if you record in TeamSpeak, it tells you. Now, if you use a third-party software to
Yeah.
record it, like which I assume you would be doing,
Yeah. Does your
is there anything?
like when we stream, it tells you that we're streaming, right? I think it says it up top.
Where?
On top of
I
Discord, streamer mode.
don't think so because I think you're streaming.
Hmm. So it doesn't tell you that I'm streaming.
No, it just says that you're. I mean, it shows your record, like your videos up, but that's it.
Oh, with that being said, it's 10:30. So
Now that we've tangented for another 15
I have
minutes.
yeah, that's why I started then. Um. All right. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us again. We'll be back next Wednesday to go over more combat, and this is the meat and potatoes of it.
Yes,
Um,
it is.
and more tangents. So, yeah, if you liked what you've seen, don't forget like, subscribe, hit that notification button on YouTube, and then you can find us at twitch.tv/ Let's Roll DND, and just make sure to hit us up. Every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for right now, and then yeah, we'll kind of go from there. So tomorrow I'm gonna be doing some crafting, so stop in. We're gonna finish up the portal. We're gonna mostly be working on the portal.
I forgot my fucking mini at Brandon's house again.
Mm.
Damn it.
He's gonna
Yeah,
set that mother.
you missed my mini. It's adorable.
He's
and
gonna set it on fire.
I mean,
You were warned.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't have anything else. Do you guys have anything else?
Nope.
All right, internets. That's it for us tonight. Be good, be safe, and bye, internets.